So since it's already 2 p.m. in Vietnam, let's start this webinar. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Shihan from New Venture Corporation. We are the organizer of the webinar today. Welcome aboard. Solar power as one of the clean energy sources has become more and more penetrated into our lives over the past decade, especially in the commercial and industrial sector in Vietnam. So therefore, regarding this market focus during this webinar, speakers will give their opinions and interpretations on the topic of accelerating Vietnam energy transition with the commercial and industrial application of distributed solar. So now I would like to give a brief introduction and a big welcome to our speakers for today. So for moderator, we have Mr. Lee Tian Dat or Daniel. Daniel is the managing partner of ADK & Co Vietnam Lawyers and was with nearly 15 years of practicing and managing at the leading law firms in Vietnam. Mr. Dat specialized in a broad and extensive practice such as corporate mergers and acquisitions, renewable energy, real estate projects, construction, inbound and outbound investment projects, dispute mediation and settlement, international trading of goods. And next for the speakers, we have Mr. Hong Lee. Mr. Hong Lee is handling the sales manager in Vietnam at Trina Solar. He joined Trina in April 2021 and has been responsible for sales, technical support, and consultant of new products to Vietnam customers. He has over 4 years of PV industry experience and has over 7 years of energy consultant experience before joining Trina Solar. And next, we have Mr. Lee Kwang Min. And Mr. Min is the Director of Channel and Partnership Development in CME Solar Investments. And Mr. Min has 27 years working in diesel power generation business with 2 biggest global corporations, that is Cummins and Caterpillar, as the head of sales. And Mr. Min has a long experience and deep understanding of the Vietnam C&I market sector. Next, we have Mr. Ojasvi Gupta. He is the Senior Vice President of International Business with M+ Solar, which is the subsidiary of Petronas. And having over 23 years of professional experience, Ojasvi is a seasoned investment banker and specialist in developing renewable energy projects. And Ojasvi has worked in various geographies and presented focused on Southeast Asia market, particularly Vietnam. And last but not least, we have Mr. Lucas Ferrand. He is the Director and Country Manager of Vietnam and Cambodia at Cleantech Solar, which is the leading supplier of renewable energy to corporates in Southeast Asia and India, combining the capabilities of being a regional player with responsiveness and agility. So next, for today's webinar, we will first start with a 10 minutes plenary speech given by Mr. Hong Lee from Trina Solar, following by a 45 minutes panel discussion given by all speakers. And please note that there will be Vietnamese simultaneous interpretation for Mr. Hong's presentation. So please kindly switch your channels based on your language preference. And the organizer of today's webinar, New Venture Corporation, is dedicated to supporting key investors and developers for successful development and investment in Asia-Pacific renewable energy sectors. Our footprints cover Asia-Pacific countries such as Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, China, Myanmar, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, and some Middle East countries. And one last thing before starting the webinar, I would like to introduce all attendees with some housekeeping notes here. If you experience any technical issues or if you have any questions for our speakers, please do feel free to use the below Q&A box. And in addition, we will share the presentation slides and the webinar recordings to all attendees by next week through your registration email. So now I'm happy to hand the microphone to Mr. Hong Lee, our first speaker for today. And once again, please keep in mind that we will have Vietnamese simultaneous interpretation for Mr. Hong's presentation. So please make sure to switch between the channels based on your language preference.
Hello, Vedan. Can you see my screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Today, I'm happy to share with you our China Solar Vertex new series model. A little bit, I will have a history of China Solar. We are founded in more than 25 years ago. And recently, we already production with 50 gigawatt capacity for PV model. And China Solar is kind of the national company. We have working around the world. In Vietnam, we have a factory and also have a sales team. And China is one of the best top bankability for the last 5 years. And also in the APAC area, we are always in the top 3 on the selling PV model. We are also kind of the leading technology, and recently we invest for ATZ technology. We have anti-topcon, and we are now for the 210 mm high capacity, ultra high capacity model. So for today, I will focus on the high capacity PV model on this slide. As you know, recently the capacity of each PV model increased quite high from 400 to 500 to 600, and in the future will be 700 watt per model. So it has a new trends in the capacity of PV model. You also see in the Chinese market showroom, most of company release to the market very high capacity PV model, so not too much company release for the lower capacity. In Vietnam, we had also have some project for solar farm and floating use high capacity like 210 mm PV model. The family of Vertex, we have okay. Let me turn off the video so the signal will be better. You can see here for the 400 and 500 watt, we have desired low current, high voltage. For the higher capacity, we use the high current, low voltage design. So let's see what the difference between them. We use the new design of the 210 mm. Is kind of one of the optimal design. In the next slide, we will show to compare between the technologies. Typically, I will go detail for the typical Vertex B19 550 watt peak. So you can see, to compare with 500 and 550 for the same project with 1 megawatt DC and 1.2 megawatt DC and 1 megawatt AC. For the design of 550 watt peak, we use the design of high current, low voltage, so the quantity of each string will be less than before. So I will go to detail to compare the connection. You are very familiar with the singular diagram like this. So this one is connect 2 string per 1 MPPT, and this one is 1 string to 1 MPPT. For this one, we will use, you can see, have a mismatch loss between 2 strings. And for this one, there's no mismatch. So if we can, we will focus on 1 string connect to 1 MPPT. But before, we just have a configuration to connect 2 strings with 1 MPPT, because the MPPT power normally below 14 kilowatt. So the current of MPPT is 26 ampere. So for the E max of extreme may be limited at 13 ampere. So do you know normally in Vietnam in the midday the radiation is very high, higher than standard condition. It's around 1,100 watt per watt. So it's higher than standard about 10%. So if to choose the optimal MPPT current, so we will choose about 11.7 ampere. So for this one, we will design for vertex S series the 17, the 18 with the current below than 12 ampere. It perfectly suits with the connect to string with one MPPT. So if you want to have a connect to string, one string with one MPPT, you must have a design. The power of each string must be higher than 15 kilowatt. So luckily for us, when we connect with one string with an MPPT, the limit current will be around 23 ampere. So with our design for the 19, the 20, the 25, the current is higher, but it's still lower than the limitation of available string. Here's a parameter of available string of Paraguay and also Sun Grow and another existing inverter manufacturer. So for this design, we will reduce the cable for customer, we will reduce the mismatch load for the customer, and also reduce the quantity of PV module, so saves cost for customer. We come back the example before for the 500 and 550 watt peak per module. We need less string for the 550 watt, less cable. So in totally, we will save investment cost for around 0.5 cent per watt. So this is the key point to save the cost for customer. For the higher capacity, 670 watt from PV module, the 21 with the same design, low voltage concept, high current concept. So for the solar farm, we recommendation for to use highest capacity. So we will say 15% of tracking, 17% of fluorescence, and totally we will say around 1.2% in cost. We also have a third-party report to show that with higher capacity, 660, so we have lower LCOE in Germany and lower capacity in Spain. We also improve the frame. It's not kind of the bigger, it's kind of optimized design to keep every physical loading the same with your previous PV model and adapt with all IEC requirements. So please be confident to use the higher capacity PV model from us. And also we have new innovation packing. We have a new kind of vertical placement to have a more unloading shipping. You can see here we can increase 20% in shipping. As I mentioned before, most of the inverter manufacturers already adapt with your new design, high current, low voltage PV model from outside, a vertex model. And also in the market, most of the tracker manufacturers also release the letter to talk adapt with the new design, high voltage, high current, low voltage PV model. Here's some picture to show you in the real project. Thank you for your joining today. If you have any question or need to concern about design, let's connect with me again. Thank you.
50 mi-pass. sử dụng tấm pin trên 550W của China.
Thank you, Mr. Hong Li, for your presentation. So now it's time to start the panel discussion session, accelerating Vietnam energy transition with commercial and industrial application of distributed solar. Our moderator will be Mr. Li Tiandat or Daniel Li, and for the panelists, we will have Mr. Li Huangming, Mr. Ojasvi Gupta, Mr. Lucas Ferrand, and Mr. Hong Li again. I will go ahead and hand the microphone to Daniel. Let's welcome.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome to the today webinar. My name is Lê Thiên Đạt, a lawyer from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, who will circulate some matter to be discussed today to our panelists. You can see that the solar power in Vietnam has been motivated to develop in recent years, and in the coming time from which it can be affirmed that Vietnam is a potential destination for investors to be distribute solar application. Recently, the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Vietnam, the MOIT, has officially submitted the final draft of the National Power Development Planning A. We can call PDPA. Some day ago on last week, 19th of November 2021, the Deputy Prime Minister Lê Văn Thành has chaired a meeting for circulating and collecting some opinion on the drafted PDPA, which submitted by the MOIT in alignment with the spirit of the 26th Climate Change Conference of the United Nations. So this shows that Vietnam has been developing many policies to encourage the use of renewable energy. Of course, there still be a lot of challenge due to the uncertainty of the current regulation in the near future. So we do hope that our panelists today can share us your practical knowledge and experience in this industry. For more information, I would like to welcome Mr. Lê Quang-Minh, Director of CME Solar Investment, to share to us your general opinion of the most recent submitted PDPA and its influence on our distributed solar sector in Vietnam, especially that right after the COP26 has been already happened. Yes, we would like to hear from you, Mr. Minh.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here again. And I think my first point is that to accelerating something, then we should understand what is currently driving it, and from there we know how we can accelerating that, right? And we're talking about the driver change of the market from last year to this year. So like last year, you see clearly that is the private money and the bank money help the market moving around, thanks to the FIT tool is still attractive to a lot of people. So everybody crazy about solar, own the money, flow in the solar, everybody get something out of it, right? And but thing on change after the 31st December last year, and the driver of the market also completely changed by then. Okay, and now what drive the market further from that day? You see, it's still the private money that the group owner who really have the operation below it investing in that, and now you see the foreign investor and foreign developer, and also some local developer is keeping pushing the market forward. Not as fast as before, but still moving. The market is still moving, and this is the big change. So from the local money, private money, local bank money, now it's become still, some, I think, local manufacturer, FDI, still invested, but I think not that much. But main driver now this year going to be the investor, foreign investor, and developer who attracting more foreign fund into the country to drive the market, right? And so if we see the chain like that, then we know that how we should contact and connect with the right source of power to drive the market forward. So that's it. My first point, the driver chain of the market, and then you see a lot of factor affect the business as well this year, including policy change, then also the COVID, and also now recently the PV panel change. So to keep it moving, despite all this barrier obstacle, we should also find a solution together to keep our commitment, because with all the changes, the commitment should we affected somehow. Then how we gonna do together to cope with it. So I can share some of my experience that okay, we do have our flexibility to stock some of the panel. It's still around in the market, and we take anything that available to keep in stock, to have the project going with our own finance formula instead of pushing the new one. And until then, we don't know how long we can keep, but at least it can keep the market moving, accelerating something for solar Vietnam until we have a new policy, we have a new pricing policy from PV manufacturer, right? And that far, I think. I hope that you guys will have some more creative ideas, to put them together to share with the audience. Any more questions on that one? I think that's my two main point.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Gupta, the senior vice president of Amlos Solar, you can share us more about your report after Mr. Min has shared.
Thanks, Daniel. What Mr. Min has told is the crux of the status in the rooftop solar scenario and ecosystem in Vietnam. And I think the bubble which was being started getting up in the middle of 2020, and surprisingly on one day, you can see commissioning of 4 gigawatt of rooftop solar. That bubble has started getting to settle down, and which was supposed to do. However, suddenly there are multiple things which really affected the whole scenario. Is the policy framework paralysis. I will call it as paralysis. That clarity on the policy was completely withdrawn, and there was no other guidance which are being given, number one. Number two is also the what pandemic has done it, but primarily pandemic has made us to realize more and more focus on the green energy, and that this contribute to the positive side of it. Frankly, the understanding has moved out from the profitable business of a solar as a commodity to be sold at a feed-in tariff. There is a realization which Mr. Min has completely correctly highlighted, is to install the rooftop solar where the business operation is below the roof, and that where that realization has come. One of the most important aspects which our experience, which we have done it in a different part of geography, is that there has to be some kind of a policy support that is required, even though it should be getting on a lower magnitude over a period of time. So from the feed-in tariff, now it's over in 11 months past, and we all know because this was not anticipated. Now policy has completely not giving any guidance, but a little more confusion on account of net metering which is happening, on account of support which distribution or PCs, power companies are going to provide for such rooftop solar installation. However, in these challenging times, there is a very good opportunity for developer like us, where we can really tap in. One of the best thing which we are also looking in different part of it is on account of some innovative models, which also include into the rooftop solar with battery storage. And these models can really become feasible the moment we realize the trend of the power tariff, which is likely to happen in EVM, which is anticipated to increase by 5 to 5.5%, but even on a very conservative way, it is expected to increase by at least 3 to 4% per annum. Therefore, we have to, as a rooftop solar developer, we have to look into that in these circumstances, how the best solution we can offer. I'm not going to touch upon it, which Amin has completely highlighted, is on account of the uncertainty on account of module prices, and particularly with the impact on the capital cost of the rooftop solar, which is a market dynamics which always happen in any of the project. Lastly, I just wanted to also say that post COP26, rooftop solar are also getting importance in the discussion where we are discussing to make it as a part of a complete energy mix. And I'm very sure in next 2 to 3 months, because PDP 8 is being revised, I'm very sure there will be some more policy as well as government support to promote rooftop solar and commercial and industrial installation. Undoubtedly, it is one of the major value driver for energy transition towards the green energy. This will be my opening remark. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for your sharing your practical share. Following Mr. Gupta, I would like to introduce Mr. Lucas Phelan, who is Director and Country Manager, Vietnam and Cambodia of Clean Touch Solar. I hope that you can share to our attendee and audience about your practical knowledge regarding the opportunity, benefit, and of course, challenge, difficulty, and risk of installing solar system for C&I in facility, such as, of course, operating rooftop solar.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here to share my views. So, yeah, first about the PDP 8. Of course, it hasn't been finalized yet. But in the last draft, there is announced 18 gigawatt peak for by 2025. At the moment, there is about 16 gigawatt peak installed. So that give a room. I mean, that's not the final figures, right? We are still waiting for another draft after the COP26, but that give a room for almost 2 gigawatt peak to be developed in the next 3 years, right? So we have seen in the past years that approximately 50% were distributed solar rooftops mostly, and 50% were centralized solar farm. And with the last discussion that happened last Friday and the announcement by the Deputy Prime Minister, we can expect among these 2 gigawatt potential that can be in the PDP, a large part or even the biggest majority of this 2 gigawatt peak will be rooftop solar, right? So for the next 3 years, that gives us a potential of about 350 megawatt peak per year. That's much lower than what happened last year, in the last 2 years, but it is still a good potential for developer to play, right? Of course, as Mr. Le Quang mentioned, the market is changing from EPC developing with the support of bank or investor to pure developer like us, like CME, like M+ Solar and others. But yeah, this is still a hot market, I would say, which totally changed from feed-in tariff with a lot of support from the government to self-consumption, of course. We don't know what will be the policy, but for sure, the next growth will be towards self-consumption. Then you mentioned in terms of limitation, what's happening now is, of course, during this gap between the end of the feed-in tariff and the new policy, if there is one, we are seeing some limitation from EVN, especially South Power Corporation, the EVN South, which at the moment halting all approval for the PV system in different regions. So, of course, we are waiting the PDP to be released and endorsed for the MYT and EVN to work on the next regulation to allow developers to develop projects. Daniel, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lucas. About the topic of the rooftop solar price mechanism, we all know that the MYT is still drafting the new circular on for the self-consumption price in replacement for the feed-in tariff. So I would like to hear more from Mr. Hoàng Lê from China Solar. So can you share us about your view on this status and your forecast of distributed solar application in Vietnam under the recent draft on the self-consumption price? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hoàng.
Okay, so for the motor part, already know the strategy from MOIT and so from EVN, they kind of the delay. The talk is just support for the renewable, however, the delay for the quite a long time. So for you see on the draft of DPD number 8, they already include solar farm with solar rooftop, very quite small amount. It on less than 3 gigawatt for 4 years for next year. So for the strategy, I think it's quite difficult. However, let's say consumption, so consumption is kind of independent with the strategy from EVA. So we will run by ourselves. So I think it is kind of the good option for us to see self-consumption not include on the DPD number 8. Yeah, that is my view.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hoàng, for your sharing. Can we hear more from Mr. Minh, CME?
Yes, I think the SPC is the first one who put on hold on the connection approval for the new solar rooftop solar system. And then recently, I think last week, Ho Chi Minh City also followed, and then they also issue very clearly the document that say all the PC the sub PC, also hold same like SPC. And I think soon, maybe this week or beginning next week, the CPC and NPC will do the same. It looked like the EVN, it looked like, just my guess, it looked like the EVN won the consensus within their general company. And then, everything we're pushing the pressure for MYT to make it faster, for the market to continue to move, right? And from that guess, and I work with some people from VCEA, the Vietnam Clean Energy Association. And we're planning that we will gather as many as possible the signature of developer, investor, EPC in Vietnam, and we will write a letter to MYT to ask them to please, to help at a group of company, depend on their speed of work, and then so I invite you guys, to join the game, to join this campaign, and we can get many signature that possible, and I think VCA will send the invitation soon. I talked with a few people there, and then they own consensus agreement with this with the thing. So I think this will be definitely one thing that accelerate this solar rooftop in Vietnam. I hope.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Min, for your sharing under this uncertainty time. I saw one question from our audience, Miss Trang Nguyen. The question is about the funding source for rooftop solar project. The question is, the main source is from international or local bank or by EPC contractor. So I would like to listen from Mr. Gupta from M Plus Solar about your view on this, view on the rooftop solar financing. Thank you.
Yeah. On the rooftop solar, to get a piecemeal funding or project-wise funding becomes a little more time-consuming and also more laborious, because the ticket size happen to be limited to small ticket size. However, if we have got a portfolio, I'm right now pretty sure that local banks are supporting extensively, but the competitive rate for interest rate for local bank compared to international banks are a little higher side. The international banks which are really financing is financing on the promoters' relationship, not only in the Vietnam, but from the outside Vietnam. The support which have been taken into an account for the international bank supporting rooftop solar in the initial stages is not found anywhere. Leave apart Vietnam, but is not found in any other geography. It's the initiative taken by the local bank, considering fact that they understand the local regulations and local working scenarios. However, we have seen that there are few line of credit which are being discussed. In that connection, the multilaterals are extending some line of credit to the local banks to extend the competitive financing, which we can see it in some time to come in. However, during such materialization of these line of credit, the support of local bank can be used or can be taken into an account for financing the rooftop solar and get a better competitive rate and better financing terms from the international bank when they are ready to finance the project. But as of today, most of the local banks with support to the rooftop solar. This is our experience. We'll love to hear if Lucas or Min has got a different experience of this.
Yes, thank you, Gupta. I hope that your answer is sufficient and clear. If Chang Nguyen, you have any discussion you can raise to our panelists after the webinar today. One of the main topics in our webinar is about the business model for installing solar system in C&I sector and the way to achieve the expected IRR. So I hope that Mr. Huang Lê from China Solar can share your firm experience in this technical way. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. As most of us know now, solar energy is cheaper than another traditional energy, like fossil, example for the EPN price. So for now, for sure, the IRR from solar market will be shorter than conventional energy. However, as you know, the tension of the PV model increased high recently. However, in general, it's still cheaper than conventional energy. So for IRR now, I estimate it around 5 or 6 years for the previous price, and for the increased price now it's around 7 years or 7 years or 8 years, something like that. However, we cannot sell to EVN anymore as before. So it's a problem now. We need to have a firm contact with the end user. So the problem now is we try to negotiate with the end user customer to have a long-term contact is most important. For the solar market, it's quite cheap compared with another. So the strong of the economy, financing is still well. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Huang. I saw from our Q&A book from Thomas Jacobsen raise one question to Lucas and our panelists that whether the MOIT must be clear that the number in the PDPA do not include rooftop solar, only project that need to be in PDP. In particular about 1 megawatt if they qualify as rooftop solar.
Question is to me, right, Daniel?
Yes. Thomas to Jacobsen to you.
I was of the impression that you know the solar figure into the PDP 8 was including everything, meaning solar farm, but also all kind of rooftop solar. But I'm not an expert. I didn't read it in detail, so I don't know if someone else can advise on this. Likon?
Yeah.
Sure, Mr. Min. Yeah.
I think the rooftop solar, if now we're talking about distributed model, so then I think the draft that they have mentioned ever in one of the conference, I think back to August or September, I can't remember clearly. So they said that maximum power you can fit back to the grid will limit it up to 20%. So I think that 20% going to be count in this PDP. So the rest it not, you know, the rest is it not really count into the, because you know it's self-consumed, and then they will allow you to fit in only 20% of the total system, and then that 20% going to be count as part of the 2000 I mean 2 gigawatt, right? In for rooftop for solar in peak. So this is the digital draft, and one it become reality. So it could be you know, they allow to have more megawatt per contract signed with the customer, but then in any way it's going to be only 20% of the total system is allowed to feed back to the grid, right? So then everything is still draft, but yes, if the draft become reality, then we can do more than 1 megawatt, and we can feed maximum 20% back to the grid. With the feed will be announced every single year. We don't have the feed for 20 years like before, but then only 20%. I mean every year. Okay, so that what I can share with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your sharing, Mr. Min. One of our item for discussion today is about technological breakthrough and system intelligence for distributed solar power development in the market, which I believe that our Mr. Huang has shared earlier in of China Solar. So how about in clean tech solar? I hope that Lucas can share you more about your firm experience in this.
What is your question, Daniel?
Yeah, about the technology breakthrough and system intelligence for distributed solar power development in the market, Vietnam market.
I mean, I think, you know, the distributed solar technology is very mature now. Since I started solar 10 years ago, I didn't see much innovation. So in terms of risk, I think we you know, we have everything under control. We are still installing module inverters. If we need to install a zero export solution, many developers in EPC know how to do now. But yeah, we don't see much risk in terms of PV technology. The only thing is, of course, with this new self-construction market, it's more towards risk for the developer. It will be very important to assess the load of the client. Last 2 years, of course, we were taking, you know, a maximum roof space. I didn't even care about the system size, just install the maximum. With this new regulation coming, new policy towards self-consumption, we will definitely need to pay a lot of attention to designing the best size according to the load of the client, of course. So that's a risk developer need to take into account and to really size the system accordingly.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas, for your sharing. Come back to our Q&A, both from Bejas raise a question that currently, if we sign a PPA for self-consumption, the IPP cannot sign a PPA with EVN or selling the excess amount of energy. I hope that Mr. Huang, your firm can share us your practical information on this matter.
Sorry, what is the question? Can you repeat it?
Currently, if they sign a power purchase agreement for self-consumption, they cannot sign a
connection agree.
Yeah, with EVN for selling the excess amount of energy, excess amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure now, there's no price for the solar market from EVN and also from MOIT. So we cannot sell to EVN anymore. So for the excess power, so we will wait, cannot sign any contract with the EVN. No way.
Yeah. How about your view, Mr. Min? Can you share?
I should share one of my cases, you know, exactly what Mr. Peter, right? Peter Lau, right? Asking. So if IPP, so now you see a lot of industrial zone who also operating together with some IPP, you know, to sell the power from 110 kV, to the retail consumer in the industrial zone. So then, if they install the rooftop, there are no way they can fit back the excess amount of the energy to the EVN, and then as they connect to the EVN at 110 kV, so that it out of the definition of rooftop, because rooftop is connecting to the grid below 35 kV, right? So if you connecting at that voltage, so they will treat you at the solar farm, and it's completely different. You have to be in the PD plan. You have to apply a lot of license document and everything. Then there is no way access amount to the EVN. Okay, but if you transfer the access amount, within the industrial zone, so that nobody forbid you anything on that part. Okay, so that if they have the plan to transfer the access amount among the consumer in the industrial part, then that is okay. And then we also offering this kind of package to some of our customers.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, I agree with you about the situation now and your solution. I saw that our topic to be discussed is completed, and the audience question has been raised already about the panelist discussion. If our member would like to share any further information, you can raise us now. I think I saw that no more questions from the audience.
Okay, so I think that concludes our webinar for today. Big thanks to all speakers for joining today's webinar and sharing your valuable comments for this market. And special thanks to Dennis for Daniel to moderate this panel. And we will share the recording and the PowerPoint slides used of today's webinar to your registration email by the end of next week. And should you have any other questions, please also do feel free to contact our team. Let me share my screen here. So feel free to contact our team through the email address here on the slide right now. And also make sure to follow Solar Talks webinar on LinkedIn to get our first-hand webinar update information. Thanks, everyone.